So this land is land that was bought by my grandfather for my parents' home, and it was an estate, probably a cocoa estate, that was owned by the Patterson family, and they had gotten old and they were no longer able to keep it up. So my grandfather bought the whole estate, and it's 5 acres, and then they built the house on the street on a 1/4 of an acre, and so the rest of the land is just natural vegetation. It's bush. And when I was growing up, I spent all my spare time running around, playing in the bush. That was, I feel very lucky that my parents were okay with that. My mother would allow me to disappear for hours on end with my friends, and we would be just in the bush doing what kids do. And as I was, when I went away to college and then started working and then went back to Canada to do a woodworking apprenticeship, the land was not being cared for, and fire used to come in every year. So this area here, where you see the bamboo, there were a couple of bamboo stools on the land when I was young, but when I came back, the whole side of the mountain was covered in bamboo. And bamboo is a grass, and so it's something that survives fire. It gets burnt, but it always comes back. Grasses are one of the pioneer species that come back every time there is a fire. So the grasses and the palms. Palms are the other one. So this one is a young cocoa palm. It keeps coming back. And the stand of palms there is pickmock or black roseau. That's another palm. So the palms and the bamboo and the grasses became the dominant species in this part of the land. And so that was a sign that there had been fire very often, probably every dry season. Nobody was paying attention and the place just burnt down. So when I came back in 1996 with the intention of doing reforestation, I started cutting fire traces and keeping fire out. So all the vegetation, well, from here we can only see the bamboo. The bamboo is taken over here, it's on all sides, the palms, but on the other side of this hill, that I have been able, as a result of keeping out the fire, I have been able to allow the secondary growth to come back. And so there's other species that are coming back as well. So these white stakes are what I use to identify plants that I have planted, and what I am in the process of creating here is a living fence. Thorny palms. I have a row of them following the contour in both directions, and so eventually this will be an impenetrable wall of thorns. So this pathway is designed to carry water from the gully or ravine out onto the ridge. So it's slightly downhill, it's slightly off contour to take water down, back onto the ridge. In nature, when the rain falls, water will flow from the ridge into the valley. And when you want to catch and store as much water in the land as possible, you want to reverse that natural phenomenon. And so we put in interventions, which are either contour drains or a drain like this, that is just slightly downhill from the ravine out onto the ridge. And then we also put in contour drains, which is a level drain that will actually store the water. It won't flow out, it will fill up and it will stay there. And then it will slowly percolate down into the soil. So we want to try and get as much of the rainwater back into the soil as possible. So this is the ravine or gully. In Trinidad we use the word, a gully is more in the early stages, and then as it gets bigger it's referred to as a ravine, but it's basically the valley. It's where the water will run. And this ravine starts, you know, I imagine that the ravine started very close by, and that the amount of water that would ever come down would never be enough to wash away my dam. I built a dam here and made a pond, but then we had a situation where a developer cleared land above the Lady Chancellor Road, which is above us, and dug a hole for a foundation, and then the rains came and filled the hole up, and he let it all out in one gush. So a huge amount of water came down all at once, and the pond here was completely blown out. Everything that was in it, all the fish and the pond liner that I now have over here, that pond liner was actually lifted out and thrown into the bamboo. So I learned my lesson. It's something known as a type 1 error, is that you never put your water catchment in the water course. There will always be an event that is going to blow away your dam. So I took that advice on the second run, and I put the pond just next to the flow of the water course. So now what happens is that this pond will fill up and then overflow into that pond, and so that preserves the water better. And I can mine fish, and the frogs have a habitat. The white stuff on the water is frogs' eggs, and the green stuff is duckweed, which I grow as a green mulch, for it's rich in nitrogen, and so I will throw this on the land to biodegrade and help to create new soil. The bacteria that turn organic matter into soil need both carbon and nitrogen, and they get carbon from the brown dry material, and they get nitrogen from green wet material. So this is a place where I can constantly harvest organic matter that is high in nitrogen. And then this is also where I have my nursery, where I'm setting plants to be planted out on the land in the future, as soon as the rainy season starts, which seems to have started today. Today was our first day of thunder, so that's kind of official start of the rainy season. Although the way the weather has been, we may have another dry period, longest dry period. It's possible that we will have another longest dry period. But June is when rainy season usually does start. In the past it was very dependable. But as the climate has been disrupted, we're not so confident that we will get steady rains from now on. Yeah.